And I think from the first time that I watched it to the time that I've rewatched it recently, I've had the same feeling that it's just a brilliant piece of cinema. And there's a reason why Time magazine put it in the 100 best films made. And yeah, so I think from the first scene itself, the film is something that, it tells you that it's art. I think one perennial theme that is across the film, obviously there are smaller themes that are being explored, but the main theme that is there is that we live in a very materialistic and cruel world. And then there is this artist who is struggling to find livelihood, as well as that sense of compassion that, if a person, if even if a bee is being trampled by a man's foot, even that is hurting him.
Hi Takshi, welcome to my podcast, which is called Spoiler Alert with me, Cinephile Sanket. So Takshi, in this episode today, we are discussing a Guru Dutt film, which is called Pyaasa, which he wrote, directed, and produced it, and which starred in. With this film also starred Wahida Rahman and Mala Sinha and Johnny Walker as well. So, Takshi, first of all, tell me, when did you watch this film for the first time ever? And when you watched it, how was your experience like watching it? And when you rewatched this film, how was your experience like?
Hi, Saket. I hope you're doing well. So when I first watched Pyasa, I think I watched it a couple of years back. But my first acquaintance was it as a kid. My father used to sing me Sarjo Tera Chakrai, which is a very fun song of the film as compared to the other songs, which are very, very uh, heavy and melancholic. But that was a song that actually brought me to Pyasa. And I watched it a couple of years back. And I think from the first time that I watched it to the time that I've rewatched it recently, I've had the same feeling that it's just a brilliant piece of cinema. And there's a reason why Time magazine put it in the 100 best films made. And yeah, so I think from the first scene itself, the film is something that, it tells you that it's art. And when I rewatched it recently, I just found out new things about it and I had new interpretations. So it's, yeah, you can watch it any number of times and it is still going to be a treat to watch.
Oh wow. I don't know when I watched this film for the first time, but I can remember that because I wasn't a Bollywood kind of fan because I back then in like I think 2 years back I don't like know people used to like how greatly earlier like the old directors like Bimal Roy and Guru Dutt used to play with songs like plays those songs in a very good manner compared to in now films in the modern contemporary films. So back then I didn't understand those songs and those placement of songs. So when I watched this film for the first time, I thought, okay, why is this like? Why is there a song over here? And I didn't get it. Like that was my whole intention of just like ignoring all those songs and all those things. So I just watched this film like in half. I didn't even complete the film, and I I just told my friend that okay, like why is there a song Sarjo Chera Chakrai, and I was like okay, like then like that song didn't work it for me. But now when I rewatched this film, I was like okay, this the entire movie makes sense with all those songs because this guy, this like Vijay, the person is actually a poet. And when he actually let's just say writes those poems, he expresses his inner self and inner feelings about the world and about those people as well. And even he also gives those poems as well to like to many people and like to those people who are close to him, and they also express like that was kind of an advertisement kind of a thing for Johnny Walker's character. But like apart from that, we all like I can see that every song in this film had actually a deeper meaning to it. And when I watched this film, with all those songs, I was heartbroken. I was like, okay, everyone, like every artist over here would have kind of a have faced this kind of issue with the society, with the current society, or a society back then. If he or she is an old artist, so everyone might have at one point of time faced this kind of issue. So I was like, okay, I was very much heartbroken by it as well. But first of all, like, just to obviously you talked about the experiences of watching this film. Since you watched, this is one of your all-time favorite films. What were the themes you actually got to explore in this films? You just want to talk about?
I think one perennial theme that is across the film, obviously there are smaller themes that are being explored, but the main theme that is there is that we live in a very materialistic and cruel world, and then there is this artist who is struggling to find livelihood, as well as that sense of compassion that, if a person, if even if a bee is being trampled by a man's foot, even that is hurting him. So in a world that is so materialistic, so capitalistic, emotions and compassion and kindness is kind of rare, and he's fighting for that as well, also obviously because he's a struggling poet and he's trying to get his poems published. So there's also the fight for livelihood, but even more than that, I think it's the perfect film for idealists, who have a purpose, who want to kind of with their art tell people that, this is how one should be, and not just preach to people that this is how people should be, but in a way to promote, to rise above the hate. And we live in an extremely polarized world and country right now. So for a movie like Pyasa to say what it says, it's always going to be relevant.
Mhm.
So that's the main theme, I think, for me, that, to rise above the capitalistic and materialistic ambitions, and to see that what matters the most in the end is love, is compassion, is the little things, and how art plays a huge role in it. And obviously, the second theme that I think is very prominent is art and artists, and how, the world is constantly unfair to them, and how it's constantly like to censor them. Like, they don't like romantic poems, uh, because Vijay used to write about famine and unemployment, and the serious or the more complex issues. And poetry is not supposed to be about that, according to the publisher. I think that's the first scene in the movie.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's I think it's about art, and how, we're constantly trying to censor it, and despite our constant attempts to censor it, in the end it's always going to come out as something that is going to change the world and change how we perceive the world, at least.
Mhm.
So I think those were the two themes that stand out for me the most.
But you talked about that bee hurting and like he doesn't like that thing. I actually read an article or a piece. I can't remember that, but like someone actually kind of wrote that piece where in the starting scene itself, the film actually gives away the entire like thing which will actually gonna happen. Like the bee is actually an allegory in the like for that, and the bee is actually himself. He's actually seeing himself uh, being trampled by the society. So that was a pretty good allegory in this film as well. So if I may ask you, which were the other symbolism or allegory you found in this film?
I don't know about allegory or symbolisms, but there were a lot of metaphors, visual metaphors
Metaphors, yeah.
especially. Like I think the last scene, not the last scene, but like the pre-climax scene, I think,
Hmm.
the song "Ye Duniya Agar Mil Bhi Jaye To Kya Ho."
Hmm.
I think there's a shot of Gurudat just standing with his arms rested on top of him,
Hmm.
and there's light coming from behind him, so that he's kind of, you know, and he's very much properly seen. And
Hmm.
that's when this is a scene where they're celebrating his death anniversary. They're mourning his death and celebrating the poet he was, and which is very ironic and hypocritical because he's alive, and they never valued him when he was alive. So I
Hmm.
think that particular scene, I think it is a metaphor for kind of how Vijay kind of resurrected in people's eyes, but he also kind of resurrected in a way that in the end, we see him that he's leaving behind everything. He's getting the fame, he's getting the money, all the things that could have helped him as an artist, as a person. He's leaving behind all of that because he's just tired with the society that is, you know, draining out the humanity out of the human, basically.
Mhm.
So there is that scene, and there's one scene, I think, when Gurudat kind of he goes to a brothel, and he has a really horrible experience in a way that he sees how people treat other people, and especially women. There's a mother who is dancing, and her son or daughter is suddenly crying, and she tries to go to him, but there's the owner, and then one of the customers pulls her back and tells her that just dance, which was obviously very excruciating thing to watch, and he has tears in his eyes, and the camera kind of oscillates between his eyes and the mother. And in the end of that scene, he's walking down a staircase, and the scene is shot from upwards. So you see a low angle, not a low angle, but you see Gurudat walking down those stairs. And I think that is very much symbolic of how he felt at the moment, and regarding how the dignity of human life is being is stooping to the lowest.
Mhm.
When such things happen, the dignity of human life is basically stooping to the lowest you can possibly imagine. So there is that scene, and obviously the B one, I think it stands for the greatest metaphor of the entire film, because it kind of shows you the arc that the entire film is going to go through.
Mhm.
And the B, like you said, is a allegory for Gurudat himself, for Vijay himself.
Oh, wow. Okay, interesting observation of it. Yeah, go ahead. You were saying something.
Yeah, so that is obviously the most powerful allegory or symbolism when it comes to the film. But yeah, there have been a lot of visual metaphors in the film.
Okay, can you name like mention some?
Yeah, like I said, the staircase one, or the one in the I think it's, like I said, the song ye duniya agar mil bhi jaye, so there's that song where there's light coming from behind. And if you just look at that scene, then it's such a, I don't know, it's very enchantingly shot. VK Murthy is the cinematographer of the
Cinematography.
film.
Hmm.
Yeah, and he's done some brilliant work. I mean, I don't think we've seen that kind of cinematography in Hindi films.
Mhm.
uh, so yeah, so those kind of things. And he's kind of standing, like, if you can also relate it to the Jesus resurrection, if you can think, if that was how Jesus stood when he was resurrected, and he was watching the people, the children that he had created. uh, so yeah, that was that pose also. And yeah, so I think
For
visually also
me, for me,
yeah,
there was a symbolism. I think Vijay's poetry, or Vijay in some parts, was a symbolism to, I would say, a mainstream Bollywood. Not sorry, not Vijay, but the other people. So the other people, the rest of the people actually wanted those, I would say, like happy endings and good poetry, not the sad reality, like poems about reality and things like stuff about reality, talking about reality, but like stuff which are just like away from all these things, like not talking about, like I think Bollywood was, and I think probably is kind of right now, is like away from all this, I would say. Like they are actually kind of, they like, this is just my complete opinion, I may be completely wrong about it, but like people don't want to like just watch those serious dark like drama films compared to those mainstream films. So I felt that kind of symbolism in it. Obviously this is just my stupid uh, like thing to say about it and just to feel about it, but I kind of felt that okay, this kind of film can be made in the 1950s as well. Like as you said, that the cinematography of this film, like I think it was very much brilliant when the entire like the last song, I think I'm forgetting the name you just mentioned,
ye
just
duniya
like
agar mil bhi jaye.
ye duniya agar mil bhi jaye. In that, I think the entire crowd is kind of very underlit, and he is like whenever when his character actually comes into the picture, he's like lit brightly. So I was like, okay, wow, like everything is aside. This guy, this is the center of attraction, and that was a very satisfying feeling for me when I watched this film. And like whenever there were any uh, I don't think zoomed, but yeah, there were dolly shots in like many dolly shots in this film, and that actually represented okay, something bad was gonna happen right now in Vijay's life, right? And that actually made very much sense in those scenes actually. So I completely loved all those songs as well. Uh, like right from the beginning, which people don't actually talk about, like the first song, ये खिलते हुए बवरे, and like there's a it's a very little like song, but like it was a very good song as well. So so I actually wanted to ask you, like, since this is a Bollywood film, how did you like the songs of the film?
So I think for me, the music of Pyasa has always been a very, very important part of it. It propels the film forward in many ways. And some of the most brilliant songs. Like I said, the thing that introduced me to Pyasa was Search Tera Chakra, which was obviously a very, very fun song, like I said. But I think apart from that, the more beautiful, the more melancholic, the more meaningful songs in the film are ये दुनिया अगर मिल भी जाए तो जाने वो कैसे लोग थे हम आपकी आंखों में जिन्हें नाज है हिंद पर and so many others. I think there have been many. I might have missed out on a few, but there have been some of the most enchanting songs in a way that they can make you feel things. Okay, with Gurudat's eyes and Sahil Ludhianvi's lyrics. I don't think there has been a more. I don't know what the word is because I don't want to say beautiful because they're not very beautiful. They're obviously very very sad and sorrowful. I think ये दुनिया अगर मिल भी जाए तो there's a line in that. I think it's the main line which says ये महलों ये तख्तों ये ताजों की दुनिया ये दुनिया अगर मिल भी जाए तो क्या हो, which is kind of very it paints you the larger picture of the film that all this fame, all this money, all this greed, it's not going to take us anywhere at the end of the day, because at the end of the day what matters is how we are internally as people, how compassionate we are to other people, and that's what matters. But
Mhm.
my favorite song out of the album is Shane Wo Kaise Log The,
Mhm.
and it goes, and they're some of the most beautiful lines because it's very sad, it's जाने वो कैसे लोग थे जिनके प्यार को प्यार मिला, and it talks to you about heartbreak, it talks to you about the unfairness of the world, especially to lovers. We hear stories about star-crossed lovers and forbidden lovers, and we think it's just in fiction. But there are so many people out there who are not able to be with their love because of so many social restrictions, be it their gender, be it their sexuality, be it their religion, be it their caste. Uh, so you see how the society kind of plagues us in many ways, whether it's their capitalistic ambitions or their social restrictions. So I
Mhm.
think the music of Pyasa, like I said, propels the film forward, and it's a very integral part of it. And one of the first things that I realized while I was listening to Pyasa's album was that I've never been a Kishore Kumar fan. Sorry, I've never been a Mohammed
Mohammed
Rafi
Rafi.
fan. Uh, I've always been a Kishore Kumar fan out of the two. Obviously, they're both great, and I literally have no right to comment on either of them. But I've always been a Kishore Kumar fan, and I was so surprised to see that Mohammed Rafi had sung most of the songs, if not all, and he sung them so well. The grief that you can see in Gurudat's eyes is the same grief that you can feel in Rafi's voice. There is no gap between the two. Everything from the voice to the music to the lyrics to the depiction, uh, everything is just melancholic and tragic, and it consumes you basically. So if you want to have a good cry, if you want to have a good existential crisis for the day, then Pyasa's music album is the one to go to.
Mhm. You just spoke to me earlier before recording this, like you just spoke that there's a song called like that which ends with Hind. I'm forgetting all those
Yeah,
songs,
uh,
but
Jine Naaz Hai Hind
Jina
Par.
Naaz Hai Hind Par, like you were saying something, you can like share it over on record as well, like
Sure. So what I was saying was that obviously all of these songs have been penned by Sahil Ludhianvi. He's one of my favorite poets and lyricists. Jine Naza Hind Par was actually a nazm written by Sahir Ludhianvi called Chakle, and it had a different hook line. It had the different main line, which in the song is Jine Naza Hind Par wo kahan hai. In the poem it was something else. It was Sana Khaye something something. I It's a very tough language and I'm not very good at it, so I'm not going to try and pronounce it. But yeah, that was the original Nazam, and he reworked it for Gurudat to make it more simpler for the mainstream audience. And so Chakle became Chine Naze Hindpur. And the original is Chakle, which was also for women who were sold off to brothels and on their plight. And even in the film, that is the context of the song. Where
Hmm.
Gurudat goes to the brothel and he sees the mother being told to dance even whilst her son cries.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's the theme of the poem remains the same, and most of the poem is also the same. But the main line has been changed from what it was in Chakle to Jananaza Hindpur, and they're obviously both very wonderful pieces of art.
Hmm.
And yeah, it resembles what we should feel as Indians or as people from this subcontinent.
Oh, yeah. But Takshi, like you who like have you first of all like just to ask this question, I have to ask another question. Have you watched other Guru Dutt's films as well? And if yes, like how was this better than any other Guru Dutt's films?
Uh, so yeah, I've watched Guru Dutt's films. I've watched Kagaz Ke Phool and I've watched Sahib Bibi Aur Gulam. So if I'm being honest, I watched Sahib Bibi Aur Gulam more for Meena Kumari and less for Guru Dutt. But yeah, I've watched those two. And Pyasa, I don't think it's better than just Guru Dutt's films. I think all Guru Dutt's films are fantastic, especially Kagaz Ke Phool, which many would claim is better than Pyasa. But I personally feel that Pyasa is better, although they're just two wonderful pieces of art and they should not be compared, because you should consume them both with equal amount of love. But yeah, for me, Pyasa is the better film in a way that the kind of commentary it makes on the materialistic world, I don't think we've had a film that has done that. And even more, I don't think we've had a film that has portrayed an artist's struggle. So, and more than an artist, like even in Kagas Ke Phool, he's a director, he's a filmmaker. So even there, you have the struggling artist. But I don't think we've spoken of poets in particular. In poets who are struggling to find livelihood, poets who are struggling to write what they truly want to write, not just about flowers and lovers and stars and moons, but about the real issues, the more complex issues that plague the society, like famine or unemployment or religion or caste. And so we've not, since Pyasa, I think it's been what, 65 years, and since then we've not really had a film that has explored uh, poetry and poets in the way that Pyasa has. So I think it stands out for me there because I feel poetry is a very powerful tool. Whether it's about romance, or whether it's about resistance, whether it's about revolution, uh, it's always a very powerful weapon when it comes to change. Uh, you can use it to uh, slam it on the door of bigots, and you can use it in protests, and you can use it when you're trying to give a speech on change. And you can also send it to a lover. You can write them a love letter, and poetry will still be as powerful and as poignant.
Mhm.
So I think because
Uh-huh.
it is about Pyasa,
Yeah,
sorry,
good. Sorry.
uh, because it is about poets, I think Pyasa, for that reason alone, it stands for me. And I think many ways, I think cinematography wise also, I felt Pyasa was more rich. Although Kagas Ke Phool has a similar kind of treatment,
Mhm.
for me it is going to be Pyasa.
Oh,
And
okay.
Sahib Bibi Ghulam, I think it was more about the sorrow in Meena Kumari's life than in something else. I think it was more about Meena Kumari than Guru Dutt. So
Hmm.
if we're talking about Guru Dutt films, I haven't watched Chaudhary Ka Chand yet, which I've heard is very uh, brilliant.
Hmm.
But yeah, Pyasa is the Guru Dutt film for me. If you're talking about Guru Dutt, then it's always going to be Pyasa.
Oh, okay. Actually, in my office, there's a guy who writes films, so who writes poetry, and like he told me back, like in some weeks prior, that he like he loves writing poetries, and he loves just expressing his ideas and thoughts and feelings through poetries. and obviously those are his personal things as well. But when I watched Pyasa, and then just a few days later, he like once again told that he loves reading poetry and writing poetries as well. And like he actually told to some other people, and I was like there sitting there. I told him, okay, watch Pyasa, bro, because it's like he like that Vijay character. Obviously he doesn't he is not like Vijay, like totally struggling and all those things. And since now we are in a different times where people can actually like post on an Instagram feed about their uh, poems and all those stuffs. But like I like totally recommended him to watch this film, because how back then, like when people used to criticize the society, or people used to just talk about the the issues in general of the society, people, how people used to just like isolate that person, that artist who used to just write it. And once he is no longer in existence, like suddenly just booms, like his works are actually becomes it's $1 million thing. And how like this kind of things happen in society, I was very much shocked by it. And even I think like a funny thing, I just got to remember that like that actually the entire story, when like no one used to like no one actually gave a damn about that character, that that person when he was alive. But when he died, like people actually saw read his poems and all those stuff. This kind of resembles me to Mera Naam Joker, which is like directed by Raj Kapoor. Like people, when it released in India, like people didn't watch that film at all, which I'm heard of people actually didn't watch it. But when Raj Kapoor died and they like the studio re-released the film, like it was houseful. So this was kind of a like a quite like a I can't really say what this can be said, but like it said something about the real life, just some like many years prior to like what happened in real life as well.
Hmm. I think what you're trying to say is that we kind of value a person or a person's art after they've passed away. I think that has happened to a lot of artists in real life as well. Uh, lot of authors, lot of playwrights. I think after they passed away, they gained acclaim,
Hmm.
and that's absolutely very sad, because in their life they did not see the success, they did not see the life, they did not see the love. And in Pyasa, actually, he really doesn't die. He's just perceived
Hmm.
to be dead. But I think in real life, what happens is that we value a person more after they're not there. Uh, and I think time also plays a factor in many cases. But yeah, it kind of teaches us that we should value a person, we should value a piece of art when the person is still around. Like if we don't have to go a long way back. We lost KK recently,
Hmm.
and I was just going through my Twitter feed, and everyone was posting songs of him,
Hmm.
and I just wished that if this was the scenario when he was alive,
Hmm.
then at least he would have felt gratified or validated. Not that he needed the validation, but he would have felt gratified. But this only happened after he passed away.
Hmm. Absolutely.
So I think we must learn to appreciate people, whether we know them or we don't know them, whether they're artists or whether they're in our close circle, while they're there, because we take relationships, we take people for granted, and we don't pay the attention that people deserve. So I think, yeah, that kind does stays true.
Hmm. Finally, Takshi, I like thank you so much for coming to my podcast. Like sadly, I have to end this podcast over here, like this conversation over here. But I want to say thank you so very much for coming to my podcast and just talking about this great Hindi film, which you and I both love, and this is one of your all-time favorite film as well. So, talking about a film which is one of your all-time favorite films is and a different honor to me as well. letting people just talk about their favorite films. So thank you so much for coming to my podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was great talking to you. And I always like talking about movies. They've always been there for me. So, yeah, this conversation was very special. And Pyasa is obviously very special. So, thank you for talking to me about it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I hope I'll see you in another this kind of session as well, very super soon.
Sure.
Thanks so much and goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you.